What's going on, everybody? My name is Gerald Moore Jr., and I am an Ohio medical marijuana patient dealing with chronic pain, arthritis. As a former football player, Division One at Ohio University, where I was an All-American, I was a two-time bowl champion, a two-time MAC East champion, a Unity Council member, founder, a mentor, captain, team captain, voted by my peers in my senior year. I also tried out for the NFL with the Oakland Raiders as an undrafted free agent in the 2013 draft. So I wanted to make a video about the Ohio Medical Marijuana Program because after 2 years of being in the program, although it's helped me with, dealing with my pain, I couldn't help but notice the lack of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the overall program. When it comes to the advisory board, I don't really recognize any diversity, equity, and inclusion when it comes to Black and Brown individuals. And then when we think about the war on drugs and what the war on drugs has done to the Black and Brown community because of cannabis related issues and how it's been demonized in our community, but we don't get discounts when it comes to going to dispensaries. There aren't many dispensaries in our neighborhoods that are accessible to us. Also, it's been known that as African Americans, Black people, we don't really trust the healthcare system. So we're not necessarily getting checkups or even understanding how the medical marijuana program actually works because there's limited education, there's limited marketing and actual, know-how unless you kind of do your own work. And so I really wanted to make this video because it has just been very apparent to me the lack of awareness of a group and a demographic that is very prominent in Ohio, uh, and we've been fairly quiet. There hasn't been much of a voice. About a year ago, I created a program, Ohio Black in Cannabis, where I had a couple doctors. I had Dr. Williams, who's a cannabis doctor. I had um, uh, the Cleveland School of Cannabis. I had processors on there, and just different people from the industry share. Juanita Brent, who's a state representative out of the Cleveland area, and she shared information on how to basically turn a bill into a law through the state. And so I say all this to say is that we have to do more as Black people if we want reparations, if we want power in this industry. It's not good enough to just talk on social media or Twitter or Facebook. It's not good enough to protest outside the state house or city council on a Saturday after a Black man's been shot. We have to go directly to these people, whether it's to their communities, because we know most of these politicians live in suburbs, typically right around, the cities. So you got Upper Arlington, Dublin, New Albany, Bexley, all these different areas that, a lot of these politicians who are controlling typically our communities are coming from outside and coming in, controlling our areas and then leaving. Same thing with the police officers. Most of these police officers making 60 to 80 to $100,000 are coming from counties outside of Franklin County, and then dealing with our community, our youth, our young men, our older men, and there's typically a lack of or a lack of respect, a lack of understanding what our culture deals with and is going through, a lack of empathy, and all those things. Uh, but when it comes to marijuana and cannabis, it's like we see it, we know what it is. We know exactly what it is. But what happens is, when you have a legal market like a medical marijuana market, and you're charging people $250 to even get their medical marijuana license, then you're saying, well, we may not have a dispensary in your jurisdiction, because some jurisdictions have moratoriums on it where they're not allowing cannabis dispensaries to come in. So now I can't, it might be hard for me to afford $250 to even get my license, let alone get a scan or a x-ray or a health form to show what I'm dealing with, so I can then take it to that doctor and that doctor can prescribe me my medicine. But then I can't get to the dispensary because the dispensary may be far. And then once if you do get to the dispensary, the products are a little bit more expensive. And then, we're not getting discounts. Then you probably won't see yourself as an owner of a dispensary, a processor, a cultivator, a laboratory. And then you might not see yourself as a bud tender or somebody that's actually helping you in the dispensary and helping coach you through the process. And so there's a lot of obviously there's a lot that I just threw at you, but it's important that we understand what's going on and that we take an approach that is educated, and we understand that this is something that we can eradicate. This is something that we can control. This is something that we can have a stake in, but we have to be willing to roll our sleeves up and get involved, and not be afraid to be disruptive and shake things up, not be afraid to say, hey, this isn't right, not be afraid to say that this is racist or that this is, exclusive to a certain group of people, let alone to get a license for a dispensary is about $70,000. And that's to put in an application. That's not to actually get the license. And so then obviously you have to have a space to do your business. That business has to be, they have certain parameters. Obviously it can't be close to a school, has to have certain security features, all these different things. So you're looking at $1 million to $2 million out the gate before you ever even own or sell or open a dispensary. And so I know from just experience that even as a young Black educated male who grew up in a Black suburb, went to private schools, coming up with $70,000 or coming up with a million, $2 million, even in a group collective, is almost going to be nearly impossible, because most people need their money. They want their return on their money kind of right away. And so those are the things that we're dealing with in our culture. But if we don't talk about them, if we don't actually have proper discussion, if we don't actually have proper research and education, we really can't do anything about it. So that's why I wanted to make this video, because I wanted to show you guys also, I'm going to share my screen here, how we can just simply go to, we live in the day and age of technology. And so we have to utilize the technology instead of utilizing technology for our entertainment and laughs and giggles and trying to get clout and go viral, or watch rappers and things of that nature all day. We could be doing some research. So this is the medical marijuana of Ohio medical marijuana .gov page, and this is the advisory committee. And so the advisory committee, the Medical Marijuana Advisory Committee, is coordinated by the State of Ohio Board of Pharmacy. Per Ohio law, the committee may develop and submit to the Department of Commerce, State Board of Pharmacy, and the State Medical Board any recommendations related to the Medical Marijuana Control Program and the implementation and enforcement of the related Ohio Revised Code. Its membership includes the following. So now these are the members of the advisory committee, and we can do this research by looking everybody up and seeing who exactly these people are, right? And so number one, we have Megan E. Marchal. She's a pharmacist, I'm assuming. She's the chair, practicing pharmacist and member of the State of Ohio Board of Pharmacy. Stephanie M. Abel, I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm butchering the name, but pharmacist, practicing pharmacist. Tony E. Coder Jr., representing persons involved in the treatment of drug and alcohol addiction. Michael G. Hirsch, representing agriculture. Sheriff Matthew Treglia, representing local law enforcement, Jason Kaseman, representing labor, Robert Kowalski, representing the patient, Megan Lawrence, representing caregivers, Dr. Jerry W. Mitchell Jr., practicing physician, Nancy Walsh Mosca, CNP, practicing nurse, Marcie Seidel, representing persons involved in mental health treatment, Dr. Amol Soin, practicing physician and member of the State Medical Board of Ohio, Michael E. Stanek, representing employers, and Gary Wenk engages in academic research. And so we'll take a simple click, double click, and we can do a simple Google search to see who these folks are. So this seems to be Gary. And let's just look at Gary. Professor behavioral neuroscience at Ohio State. So there you go. That's one. I'll go ahead and just delete these. And so I'm doing this because it's important that we strategize. We don't strategize at all in our community. And so part of strategizing is understanding what you're up against, who you're up against. As a football player, we strategize. We watch film. We have, you get all the notes, you get all the plays. You can see every play that a team has run for the last 4 to 5 years. You can see every formation. You can see every single thing. And so if you do that in sports and football, why wouldn't you do that in real life with the things that are impacting you every single day? I no longer play football, so I have a lot more time on my hands to think and strategize like this. So second person. Simple Google search, doesn't take much. So we can just click. We'll go on our first. Michael Stanek, appointed as the employee representative of Ohio Medical Marijuana Advisory Committee. This is the Greater Cleveland Partnership. And so these people are also appointed by certain people. So people like the governor of the state. All right, we'll go to our next person. And now I just am going to these people so we can see. Oh, actually, I don't think we saw a picture of this last guy. So we can make a educated decision. Well, there we go. So you see what he looks like, right? Number 3. Pain management specialist. Let me see if we got any images. Oh, he's got a little tan in there, huh? We'll connect with him. Can't be afraid, guys. A lot of people are scared to do basic research. Oh, there you go. That's number 4. Number 5 here. Let's see. LinkedIn is gold too, guys. Oh, there you go. Nancy. Looks like a Nancy. Now I'm doing this because, as you guys can see, there is a trend going on here. This is a trend. Remember, cannabis, marijuana was just illegal a few years ago. Hemp is illegal now federally. Let me see. Cannabis is legal in Ohio, and it's legalizing, nationwide, but it's legal in Ohio for medical use. This one might be harder to find. Not going to spend too much time on Megan, but she's for the caregivers. Robert, I actually was just looking at Robert's page. Here he is. So he's for the patient, former veteran, Jason Kaseman. You guys are seeing this trend, I hope. I hope you guys are watching, paying attention. Because at the end of the day, they'll say, oh, why does everything have to be about a race? Why is it about race? This isn't about race. If it's not about race, then why don't we ever have anybody of color representing the group that has been disproportionately disenfranchised and fucking victimized by the war on drugs for this specific drug that now is legal and we're using it for a medical reason? So if you're saying, hey, we could use cannabis for a medical reason, who's to say that these people that were locked up weren't doctors supplying or caregivers supplying their patients with life-saving medicine, life-changing medicine? I used cannabis before it was legal, and it definitely helped me with a lot of different things. But that's neither here nor there. But you guys see it? It's not rocket science. It's really not. Let me see where we at. Almost there, almost there. Thank you guys for staying with me. I'm not sure if that's the right one. And so obviously, this is for educational purposes, entertainment purposes. Do your own research, do your own analysis. I'm just trying to spread awareness. There you go. That's Tony. Yeah, I don't have all the answers. I'm a 31-year-old Black male. My degree's in healthcare. Like I said, I play sports, play football. Cannabis has been perfectly fine for me. I've probably had times where I've probably used it too much, but not understanding and educating myself on dosages and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, I don't take any prescription pills. I'll tell you that. Only time I take a prescription pill is if, it's tremendous pain and I had to go to the hospital for something, and I haven't had to do that in a long time. And so as you guys can see, I'm not going to force all of these, like the ones that don't come right up. But, as you guys can see, I got a bulk of them. So there you go, got her. And so as you can see, that is the advisory board. And then again, or the advisory committee. So I'll read the statement again. The Medical Marijuana Advisory Committee is coordinated by the State of Ohio Board of Pharmacy. Per Ohio law, the committee may develop and submit to the Department of Commerce, State Board of Pharmacy, and the State Medical Board any recommendations related to the medical marijuana control program and the implementation and enforcement of the related Ohio Revised Code. Its membership includes the following. So, there you go. Let's see if we can get some media requirements. 3 state government agencies are responsible for the operation of the Ohio Medical Marijuana Program. The Department of Commerce is responsible for overseeing medical marijuana cultivators, processors, and testing laboratories. The State of Ohio Pharmacy or Board of Pharmacy is responsible for overseeing medical marijuana retail dispensaries, the registration of the medical marijuana patients and caregivers, the approval of new forms of medical marijuana, and coordinating the Medical Marijuana Advisory Committee. The State Medical Board of Ohio is responsible for certifying physicians to recommend medical marijuana and may add to the list of qualifying conditions for which medical marijuana can be recommended. Submit media inquiries. Medical marijuana control program media inquiries should be submitted to the appropriate agency contact listed in the document. Public records requests. Public records requests must be directed to the appropriate agency. Use the link below to access each agency public records request policy. So let's see. Department of Commerce. Since we don't have many Black-owned medical marijuana cultivators, processors, or testing laboratories, we shall go here. And we'll go to dispensaries next. So this is Public Records Request Policy. It is the policy of the Ohio State Department of Commerce, the department, that openness and transparency leads to better informed citizenry, which leads to better and more responsive government. It is the policy of the department to strictly adhere to Ohio's Public Records Act. All exemptions to openness are to be construed in their narrowest sense and made and any denial of public records in response to an otherwise proper and valid request must be accompanied by an explanation, including legal authority as outlined in the Ohio Revised Code. If the request is in writing, the explanation also must be in writing. Section 1, Public Records. This office, in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code, defines records as includes the following: any document, paper, electronic, including but not limited to email or other formats that is created or received by or comes under the jurisdiction of a public office that documents the organization, functions, policies, decisions, procedures, operations, or other activities of the office. All records of the department are public unless they are specifically exempt from disclosure under the Ohio Revised Code, Section 1.1. It is the policy of the department that, as required by Ohio law, records will be organized and maintained so that they are readily available for inspection and copying. See Section 4 for the email record policy. Record retention schedules are to be updated regularly and posted prominently. Section 2, evaluating the request. Each request for public record should be evaluated for a response using the following guidelines. Section 2.1. Although no specific language is required to make a request, the requester must at least identify the records requested with sufficient clarity to allow the department to identify, retrieve, and review the records. If it is not clear what records are being sought, the records custodian must contact the requester for clarification and should assist the requester in revising the request by informing the requester of the manner in which the department keeps its records. Although the requester may designate the format that such documents are to be placed for inspection, the department is not required to put the requested documents into a format that is not within the ordinary scope of its normal record-keeping function or normal capability. Additionally, the department is not required to create records that otherwise did not exist, or to create, for example, a computer program simply in order to respond to a public records request. Section 2.2. The requester does not have to put a records request in writing and does not have to provide his or her identity or the intended use of the requested public record. It is the office's general policy that this information is not to be required of the requester. And indeed, the demand for this information is tantamount to the denial of the request. Section 2.3. Public records are to be available for inspection during the regular business hours, generally Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., accepting holidays. Uh, Okay. Public records must be made available within a reasonable period of time, although there is no statutory definition of this time period. Yeah, see how they do the words? Public records must be made available within a reasonable period of time, although there is no statutory definition of this time period. Prompt and reasonable take into account the volume of records requested, including the time and resources needed to make them available. If they're already there, they should be ready to go. The proximity of the location where the records are stored and the necessity of any legal review of the records request. Section 2.4. Each request should be evaluated for an estimated length of time required to gather the records. Routine requests for records should be satisfied immediately if feasible to do so. Routine requests include but are not limited to meeting minutes, both in draft and in final form, budgets, salary information, forms and applications, personal rosters, etc. If fewer than 20 pages of copy are requested, or if the records are readily available in an electronic format that can be emailed or downloaded easily, these should be made as quickly as the equipment allows. All requests for public records must be acknowledged in writing by the department within 3 business days following the office's receipt of the request. Section 2.5. Any denial of public records request must include an explanation, including legal authority. If portions of the record are public and portions are exempt, the exempt portions are to be redacted and the remainder released. If there are redactions, each redaction must be accompanied by a supporting explanation, including legal authority for the exclusion as public record. The costs for public records. Those seeking public records will be charged only the actual cost of making copies. Actually, costs include 3.1, excuse me. The charge for paper copies is 5 cents per page. 3.2, the charge for downloaded computer files to a compact disc is $1 per disc. There is no charge for documents emailed. Requesters may ask that documents be mailed to them. They will be charged the actual cost of postage and mailing supplies. The department will not charge under any circumstance for any employee's times to complete the records compilation or for sending the documents. Section 4, electronic mail. Electronic mail, email, is simply one format for the creation and storage of a document. Documents in electronic mail format are records as defined by the Ohio Revised Code when their content relates to the business of the office. It is therefore the content rather than the format that defines whether a document is public record. Email documents are to be treated in the same fashion as records in other forms and should be given the same record retention schedules. 4.1, records in private email accounts used to conduct public business are subject to disclosure, and all employees or representatives of this office are instructed to retain their emails that relate to public business and to copy them to their business email accounts and or to the office records custodian. 4.2, the record custodian is to treat the emails from private accounts as records of the public office, filing them in the appropriate way, retaining them per established schedules, and making them available for inspection and copying in accordance with the Public Records Act. Section 5, failure to respond to the public records request. The department recognizes the legal and non-legal consequences of failure to properly respond to a public records request. In addition to the distrust in government that failure to comply may cause, the department's failure to comply with the request may result in a court order for the department to comply with the law and for the department to pay the requester's attorney fees, court costs, and damages. Boom. So, if you want to request public records, there you go. As you guys can see, all the information is right here. Public records request. And so that's really what I wanted to show y'all. Let me see. I really just wanted to show, the lack of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the advisory board. Let's see. Oh, and then I wanted to talk about, I think, so Ohio has I want to say 11 million people, and somehow they estimated that, oh, I don't want to butcher it, but I know it was a crazy number that they estimated how many cannabis users there would be versus how many actually signed up, and the number is nowhere close. So whoever did said that, oh, by year 2 we were going to have this many people, vastly underestimated how many people were actually going to sign up for cannabis, which is crazy because we know how many people use cannabis. There's a lot of people that use cannabis in the closet. But yeah. And while I'm here, I'm gonna just go show y'all just how crazy Ohio is. Now I'm gonna show you the Speaker of the House of Ohio. Ohio House Speaker arrested in a connection with a $60 million bribery scheme. See, I could be there's a whole lot going on in this place, but if we don't step up, if we don't make a change, if we don't demand change, nothing will ever change. So, go get the information, do your research, get educated, and let's strategize. Let's come up with a plan where we can, get what we owe, get what we're owed. So I've been on here way longer than I really wanted to, but I felt like that information was needed, and we need to share it more. And so I hope this finds somebody well. I hope this helps spark something in somebody who sees this. You guys can reach out to me via social media, Instagram. Obviously, you can post a comment under this video on my YouTube. You can follow me on Instagram at Gerald Moore Jr. Um, and yeah, I'm going to smoke me something before I go to bed. But thank you guys for watching. And until next time, peace.